Well, hello YouTube. Right, so it's another TKL stroke a bit of Autoflock Motorsport vlog here. It's a bit of a vlog I didn't really want to do, but I think I need to do it. So yeah, basically, if you might have noticed that the content's been a little bit lapsed of the last sort of couple of months. I mean, we're in February now. Yeah, so and if you notice on the wall behind me, where there used to be optics, my garage, there is now a nice little collage of pictures of myself and my family, and mostly my dad, which leads me on to what this sort of vlog is sort of starting off all about. Yeah, basically, anyway, in 2022, halfway through the year, my father got diagnosed with cancer. And he was an old boy. He was 82 at the time, so when he got diagnosed. Anyway, in the last half of the year, he went through the treatment. He got to the point where he was so ill that he was having the treatment and had to stay in hospital. He couldn't even come home. And on the 14th of December, he just lost the battle, and he passed very peacefully and incredibly dignified in his sleep. And then that was it. So during that period of the year, I was literally just doing what the bare minimum I needed to keep the wheels turning, if you like, the cogs turning in the workshop. Still trying to do as best I could with the quality of work. I don't think there's any issue there, but the quantity was literally bare minimum. So my mind wasn't on it. I didn't want to be there. I need to be elsewhere. So for the customers that had to wait a bit longer, that's why. It's not an excuse, just an apology, you know. So I'm really sorry for that, and for the people who like watching me garage antics, if you like, that's why there hasn't been much content. And also, I had lots of sorry, I'll trap nerve me arm. I had loads of content sort of done over Christmas time, which was very strange. It was sort of up and down. There's no sort of format to it, and some mistakes were seriously made in my engines, as you can probably tell by the thumbnail and title. So yeah, it's 2023 now. It's early February. I'm feeling really positive. I've still got my old man with me in the garage, and like I say, every photo on there pretty much is us eating curry or drinking a beer, which is how it was and how it should be. And yeah, so 2023 is going to be the year. I'm going to really hit the ground running. But I've got to start the year by trying to rectify some of the mistakes which were made last year with the engines. So where to start with? First of all, let's start with the dyno. So the dyno is obviously an inertia dyno, and I was using centrifugal clutches on the engines, which is basically two shoes. Wait there, we'll get one. I'll show you. Hang on. Right, so this is your clutch. You've got a drum. It's called your drum. Then inside you've got two shoes, a bit like brake shoes on drum brakes, and then two springs. Then when the crank, so I can spin independently now and not move the bell, which would then drive the wheels of the go-kart, or in this case the inertia wheel of the dyno. But when that gets to a certain velocity, a certain speed, the springs can't hold those two shoes together, so they expand, then grip the bell, and then engage, and then he starts spinning. Now, the problem with that is I run quite an aggressive setup on my clutch, which I didn't really take into consideration. So when you're on the go-kart, you start revving it up, then all of a sudden those shoes expand, hit the bell, and then you engage and you're off. Which is fine, because on a go-kart you've got quite a lot of flex in the chassis. The main thing is you've got your tyres, which you've got air in them, rubber, and they can spin, or they've got a bit of slip in them, so they've got a bit of give. Problem with the dyno is there's no bushes or anything. It is bolted to the ground. It's solid. So the only thing that's going to give is the engine. So all the vibrations been happening. I caused one of the inlet tracks of the head to crack. I'll put a picture of that up now. Just a few other things really, which were caused by the vibration. I actually had a carburetor break in two from the vibrations. It's just, yeah, it's not the best at all. But yeah, what brought my attention to it is I've been concentrating on trying to get the inlets to the engines as optimum as possible. But I was doing all this now. I've even ported gaskets to match the ports of the inlet and the ports of the head. I didn't even take into consideration the gasket on the exhaust. So I was doing all these power runs, getting to like mid-15s, and then I checked the exhaust gasket, and that was still a standard port size gasket. So I thought, right, I'll port that out to match what I've got. I did that, did 3 runs. I'm not going to disclose the figure, but it was big. So I did 3 runs, chuffed a bit, went in the house. That was it. Had a few beers, take away the missus, and I left it alone. Went to it the following week, went to fire the engine up, and I'd lost a lot of power. I had no idea why. So I thought, there's nothing for it. I've not really had my head into it. Let's start taking the engine apart and find out what's gone wrong, because it's a substantial amount that's gone wrong. It's not nothing to do with fueling or anything like that. There's something gone seriously wrong here. So I started taking off bit by bit. Cylinder head come off. First of all, check the timing. Time was spot on. Took the head off and checked the push rods. They were fine. But then as soon as I removed the gasket, the head gasket, I could see where the inside of the gasket had blown through, and it just failed. And there was a lot of damage to the piston and the cylinder head. A lot of people have said it's dead. A lot of people have said someone's been sucked in and just had a good bang about, a bit of a party inside the cylinder and gone out. Either way, there's a lot of damage. So both engines in the same situation. I personally think it's a bit of welding splatter when I've had a few too many of these. I've done like a custom inlet and left a bit of welding splatter that was just hanging on, and then all of a sudden when I've run the engine, all that vibration has just made it go loose. It's been sucked into the engine and caused the damage. I'll show you what I'm on about now. Right, so I've partially stripped both engines here, but this was the first engine I stripped. And remember I said about the head gasket? Now you can just see here, you can see exactly where it's blown through. And, try not to laugh too much, look at the state of that. And the cylinder head was equally as bad, if not worse. I mean, this is fine. I can just chuck this in the bin, get a couple more ordered. I mean, these are quite cheap. The cylinder head is a bit different. It's quite expensive. It's probably the most expensive thing on this build. Even more expensive than the billet conrod. But yeah, you can just see how the piston, I think something's hit that. And it's been banged around, and then it's shot out. But that's what definitely happened on. Let me just turn this piston so you can see this one. Yep, same again. But this was when I was welding the exhaust onto here. I didn't put anything to blank the inlet port, which is absolutely stupid. But again, this is me. So definitely something went in on that one, and they just look so identical. So these just need to be stripped down. Right, so the cylinder heads, I'll put a photo of them up now of what they look like. Yeah, I was gutted when I seen them. The problem is with these cylinder heads, they're fully worked, they're fully ported. They've also been skimmed already to raise compression. So I've got not much room to work with. I can't take too much off them because I can't raise the compression too much. Otherwise, they'll be scrap. You know, they're pretty much on the limit, I think, now of what they're capable of. Anyway, so spoke to my mate Gary, Crazy Cage Fabrications. I just sent him a photo of the cylinder heads. I said, listen, mate, I said, I've damaged these cylinder heads. Is there anything you can do? He said, yeah, I can try and put some weld into it. Don't know how good it'll be, but I've done it before. Let's see how we get on. I said, yeah, brilliant, mate. So straight round to his, got it into his workshop. He welded the head, the cylinder head faces. But he said as soon as he started welding it, so there's just all sorts of crap coming out of it. And he said it's all down to like the fuel, the oil, all the contaminants that have gone into this alley head from running it. Basically, try to grind as much of it out as possible, then re-weld that. But he said, you know, don't expect this to be a solid weld because you just physically cannot do it. You'd have to like grind it back, re-weld it, grind it back, or skim it, weld it, skim it, weld it. But the problem is the bloke who's doing the skimming is in Wrexham and Gary's literally in Liverpool, in Wallasey way. Now he's accounting doing the weld and he did the best he could on that, which I think was an absolute cracking job. He also welded up the crack that happened on the inlet. Yeah, so I got them straight back off him. He did it while I waited. Just had a little look around his workshop as usual. He's always got some good stuff there at his house. And then here's what I got back. So here's the heads. Just try and find the... So there's the inlet. So you can see there, he's just put a fresh weld on that. That's nice and solid. The crack never actually broke through. So there's no actual damage. It wasn't affecting performance. It was just a problem that was getting worse and worse. And at some point, that was going to cause an issue. But you can just see where it's been welded up now. Ignore the actual shape of the bowl because I've got to grind that back now. This weld, if you look at that weld here, I've got to grind all this back now with the Dremel, and here, get the shape of the bowl back. Same with this one. I've got a couple of standard heads here, just as a guide. You can see here the porosity in it, just from the contaminants that were in the alley. But it's like night and day. It's so much better. I can get a nice, good sealing face now on the new gasket. But yeah, so what I've done is now, in the meantime, I've ordered a load of stuff from NR Racing, from a chap called Kenton. Big shout out to him because he's been a massive help to me. I mean, he just helps me out with so much advice. Told him what I need, and he just sorts it out. And it gives me a little bit of a discount as well, which I'm really grateful for. So big shout out to you, Kenton, mate. But yes, I've ordered some new things. I've changed the spec a bit. One thing, I spoke to Stephen Knight of Night Talk, told him the issue I had, and he said the head gasket I was running is just far too thin. He said it will not take the compression you're running. And when you look at it, it's like common sense. It's like, right, but I'm just learning. I don't know what I'm doing at all. I'm just trying to get to grips with all this. So what I've done is I've ordered some thicker head gaskets. And instead of using a metal coated gasket, I've gone for a fibre gasket, because apparently when you run a high compression engine, it seals a lot better, which is exactly what I'm after. The downside is I will lose the compression ratio slightly. So I will basically lose power. The bang's going to be a lot less. But then on the other side of the coin, my heads have just been skimmed. So I don't know. They were supposed to be 14cc. So once I finish doing the Dremel in tonight, I'll cc the heads and see where we are with that. So if it's 14cc, then we're back to where we are, as long as there's no connection with the valves of the piston. But there shouldn't be any difference. But I won't know until I've finished dremeling and what have you, tidying them up. But I bought some new pistons, so the pistons are on their way. And I've also ordered a very, very fancy clutch. As I mentioned before, with the clutch I was using being like really bad with vibration, this new clutch that I've ordered is supposed to be as close to like a manual clutch as you can get without actually having a manual activation on it. It's a twin plate clutch, very expensive, so it's only going to be used for the dyno. It's not going to leave this garage, that's for sure. But yeah, apparently it's going to be a lot more, much more subtle engagement, a lot more control, so I can use the brake of the dyno to like get the revs up, get those twin plates engaged. Then I can start the power run. I might have to change the settings in the dyno to like when I start recording the power run, but we'll work that out at the time. But there's some good stuff coming from NR Racing now. So I'm just trying to stay positive with this. So that's enough talking. Think what the crack is now. Let's get these engines on the floor. Let's get them on the my little table. Let's get them stripped down, and then tomorrow, hopefully, the stuff from NR Racing will arrive, and we can build them together. I mean, it's Thursday now. Tomorrow's obviously Friday. That's the day after Thursday. I need to build these engines. I need to fabricate an exhaust each for them from scratch. I need to fabricate inlets from them from scratch. Need to put them on the dyno and run them in. Then jet them with a brand new carb. I'm using a Nibby carb, which I've never used before. And then do a full power run, make sure they're fully set up, and then install them on the cart and change tyres all within... Well, I've got to do the engine stuff within the weekend, and I've got the rest of the week till the following Friday to get the tyres ready, because we're on the first outing of 2023, the first shakedown of my own engines a week tomorrow. So there's no pressure, but yeah, let's crack on, eh? Enjoy. Okay, at last. So I think that's all done for the night. So both engines
fully stripped back now. I've got 2 trays for each engine, keeping all the stuff individual. But they're ready now to be prepped. Gonna get it all clean, spick and span, ready for a rebuild. You've seen me Dremel out the heads as best as I can. I mean, it's not perfect, but these heads literally they cost about a couple $100 for a fully built head, fully ported with the valves everything installed. So it's not worth spending too much time and energy. This is purely just to get me to some sort of level, ready to go back on track. So I'm just trying to get it done as fast as I can, but at a decent standard. And I think that's fine enough. I've been looking at the bowls; they're both very similar, and it should work, I hope. So the next vlog will be hopefully just assembling these engines and getting them on that dyno, and let's make some decent numbers. So that's the end of this vlog. I hope it's not been too more, but I hope it's explained a few things, why things have happened. And for everyone out there, let's hit 2023 running. Let's all have a good year, eh? I'll see you in the next one. Take care.